What's up, smart homers? My name's Aaron, and this year I went to CES 2024. I'm not going to show you everything I saw at CES because there's way too much, but I'll show you my favorite smart home tech. Also, I'll leave chapters in the description so you can jump around if there's stuff that you've already seen in someone else's video. One of the first places I had to stop was Govee's booth. They were showing off their new sync box, which is a way to synchronize their lights with whatever's playing on your TV. Whether it's a video game or a movie, those lights sync and it looks super cool. They also showed off a gaming setup with some of their hex lights. I really couldn't take my eyes off them, getting tons of shots, but they really rival Nanoleaf's shapes. They were also showing off their outdoor permanent LED lights, which were released last year, and they show them there in this water box, showing how they can last for quite a long time submerged in water. Their new neon LED strips are pretty great, as they can be configured into whatever shape you want on a table, and then you can pick them up and put them on the wall. Pretty cool. They look awesome, and you can actually take a picture of them with the app, and then the app's going to show that shape and allow you to change the different segments to whatever color you want, just like they're demonstrating here. Next, we had to head over to the Aqara booth, and one of the things I really liked was this magic pad, and I also really like what they're doing with fall detection with the FB2. Another product I saw they had that's not available in the US, but I really want one, is this skylight that mimics sunlight. It was announced back in 2021, but kind of fell off the radar. They also announced their new door handle lock, which can be opened with a passcode, as I'll show here, with a fingerprint, and even Apple Home Key. Of course, if any of those fail, it's also got a hidden keyhole under the fingerprint sensor. They also showed a retrofit lock that's great if you have an apartment where you can't change out the lock itself, and it has different faceplates to really add to the aesthetic that you're looking for. I like this option. Typically, I'm not a fan of Ring, but I did like this peephole cam that they were showing that can be used, especially if you have an apartment and you want to be able to see who's coming to the door. I think it's really cool that they're thinking about people in apartments, not just houses. After this, I stopped at the adurosmart booth, and I was pleased to see that they have a bunch of different Zigbee and Z-Wave and even Matter options, which to me shows that they want to be compatible with as many different platforms as possible. Apparently, they're even working on a hub that's going to be a Z-Wave and Zigbee Matter bridge, which is a really cool idea. Seergrills was showing off their 90-second steak grill that uses infrared technology and apparently AI to cook your steak to the perfect temperature. The first robotic vacuum we looked at was Narwal's Frio X Ultra, which has an insane suction power, able to suck up these steel BBs with ease. While this vac doesn't have a camera like some of the others, it uses a tri-laser system to super accurately pinpoint obstacles and avoid them. They showed off its water exchange system that should allow it to have longer lasting water, meaning less frequent changes. The first thing they were showing off, and to me the most impressive thing, was this conical brush that's meant to shed hair and not get tangled. They call it a floating brush because it's only held on one end and the other end is free. And when hair wraps around it, it naturally travels towards the other end since it's shaped with a bit of a taper, and it gets sucked into the vacuum without staying on the roller. To me, this was the most impressive of all the hair shedding technologies that we saw with any of the vacuums at CES 2024. Big props to Narwal here. Next, they showed their dust processing system, where rather than emptying it and making a loud noise every time the vacuum's done, it just compacts the dust every time it goes to the dock, making less noise and leaving the dust in the vacuum for a longer time. The mopping system uses two rouleau triangle-shaped mop pads that stay in contact at all times, meaning no gaps in your mopping for what should be a supreme mopping job. To deal with edge mopping, the narwhal actually rotates itself, kicking out one mop pad, cleaning that edge as best it can. I also noticed that the edge spin brushes only have 2 spokes rather than the 3 that most of them do, and they said this is because then when they have them stationary, they can have the brushes underneath the robot and in the path of the mop, so you're not dragging junk into the path of the mop later on. Kind of interesting, and I like it. Lastly, narwhal showed their targeted cleaning dirt sense, which is the system that allows them to tell if where they've mopped is still dirty based on the condition of the water. It's going to go mop, then it'll come back and check the water at the base station. If it's still dirty, then it's going to go back out and clean again. Next, we stopped at the smartwings booth, and they make some really cool roller shades, Zigbee, HomeKit compatible, etc. that work well with Home Assistant. And here they had a new remote, which is a lot nicer than the old remotes that they had provided with different shades. Probably their claim to fame, though, is first of all how quiet the motors are. It's actually hard to believe. And secondly, the many different materials that are available to get these shades in. Pretty much you give them the dimensions of the windows, tell them if you want blackout or not, what shade material you want, and they'll go ahead and make them to your custom specifications and ship them out to you. Pretty cool, and I really like what they're doing in the smart shade industry. I mean, seriously, look at all these different materials that you can choose from. I may be making a video on these sometime in the future. Next, we had to stop in to see our friends at thirdreality. If you don't know these guys, they're actually part of the Works with Home Assistant partner program, and they make devices for local control use. If you're a big fan of local data and local control of your smart home stuff, you definitely should check these guys out. They showed me their new plant moisture and watering stuff, and they also showed me this garage door opener prototype that presses the button on your garage door opener, which may be helpful if you recently abandoned the MyQ integration. They may make this smart speaker into a Home Assistant local voice box. That would be dope. Next, we had to hit up one of the big players in robotic vacuums that also now is making a mower, and that is Dreame. Dreame was showing off their mower, but also the new X30 Ultra, which has some awesome features. They also were displaying their L20S and some of their other vacuums that have been released previously, but I was most interested in the X30 Ultra. This vacuum is a monster with massive sucking power, a little bit more actually than the narwhal, about 8,300 pascals. It comes with a standard brush for vacuuming, but if you want to deal with hair, it comes with this unique brush. And different from narwhal, this one actually has little teeth that actually cut hair when the hair wraps tight around it, releasing the hair and allowing it to be sucked in by the vacuum. It is a pretty cool design, and it'd be fun to test this and compare it with the narwhal. This vacuum is also pretty good at mopping, and it has the ability to flex out or extend a mop pad to get underneath cabinets and get up against a wall. It can also rotate itself to get even further if that's what's needed. These mop pads are then washed at the dock station with hot water and are actually heat dried with air so that they don't start to smell when they're sitting at the dock. When the thing is sweeping and the mop pads can't clear the carpet that it's going onto, it'll actually drop the mop pads off at the base station, and then it'll come back and do the sweeping. Next, I had to stop over at Reolink as I love their cameras and they work great with the Home Assistant, and they were showing off their Color X night vision where they can take night vision video and bring the color back. They were showing a demo with a house model in a dark box. They also released the Reolink Duo 3, which has 16 megapixel, 180 degree field of view, and it's super nice. They're also adding this dual camera design into a bunch of their other cameras like the Argus and Argus 4, which is really cool. And they showed off their battery doorbell, which I would love to get my hands on and compare to the Wi-Fi version that I've already tested it in a previous video. Next, we stopped over at Ecovacs, and I was super excited to check out some of the new products they have. They showed off the D-Bot X2 Omni, which has already been out for a while, but one thing they actually decided to add to it was a new type of base station. And this base station, along with the regular features you've already seen, has the ability to store a hand vac. The hand vac has a bunch of different accessories so that you can vacuum in crevices and the couch, even has like an upholstery cleaner, which is super cool. And when you put it back into the dock, it actually empties itself into the same dustbin that the regular vacuum does. Super cool. It even has a long handled hand vac for regular floor cleaning, which I thought was a really nice touch. This is one I definitely want to get my hands on to test out. They also showed off a new robotic mower. It seems like everyone's making these now, and I didn't really get many specs or anything on this, but it was cool to see a lot more robotic mowers coming into play here at CES. One of my favorite products was the wyebot W2 Omni, which is a window cleaner. This is insane. It sticks to the window with massive amount of suction apparently, and even that base that it's connected to is suctioned to the table while it's running. So if the wyebot fell, it wouldn't pull the base station down with it. The wyebot is essentially a mop for a window, but it would be really cool if you were in a high rise and you wouldn't have to pay a window cleaner to come clean your windows. Might be a cool option. It has some sensors on it. I don't know if it's LiDAR or what it is to tell where the edge of the windows are, but it seems like it's pretty good, especially with the style of window that's shown here. Of course, for your viewing pleasure, I had to take a look at the back. You can see that it's suctioned really nicely to the window. I assume the suction is in the middle, the mop is kind of like a seal, and then it has these little rubber tracks that allow it to drive around. Very cool. They showed off another really cool product, and that was the AirBot Z2, which is a mobile air purifier. I guess you can think of it like a robotic vacuum that vacuums the air, but it roams around your house purifying the air and can go to areas where you spend the most time, which is awesome. Next, we stopped over at Amazon's booth where they're showing the Echo frames. And in my opinion, these are just like a voice assistant in glasses. There's no visual smartness to them, but the sound was okay, and you couldn't hear the sound if you weren't wearing them, but they pretty much connect to your phone and the Alexa app on your phone. They have pretty brutal reviews on Amazon, so I wouldn't go ahead and get these just yet. Maybe wait. They also showed a new kid robot, which kind of looks like a baby, and it's meant for kids to be like a companion and a learning device. Kids can actually pick it up and bring it to another room with them if they want. I'm a little bit torn about this, having 4 kids. I don't think I would actually buy one of these, but it was kind of interesting to see the person showing it off was interacting with it and it was talking back. They call it Moxie, and it's powered by Moxie AI. One thing I did love from Amazon though was this smart kitchen, and particularly this smart stove. Super futuristic. You could do all these different things like set the perfect temperature settings. You could set timers. You could turn all of the burners off, or you could set it on just keep something warm. I really like the idea of a connected stove. Oh, a Sonoff NS Panel Pro did make an appearance. They also showed their Echo Hub, which is kind of like a smart home dashboard, which I love, but it's Amazon. Wyebot had their pool cleaners, which were pretty neat, and one of the features I really liked was that they had a tablet that would display the live feed of the camera, which was really cool, except for it wasn't actually live in the demo, and I could pick it up pretty easily, but it looked like a pretty cool device, and I'd like to test this out at some point. Next, Kohler came out with something that we don't need, but we obviously asked for it, and that is the e-ink smart toilet. Now, Kohler's smart toilets are really cool, and I'll show you some of the features in a second, but who needs e-ink to change the colors? The smart toilets have this remote that allow you to do a bunch of different things, controls so many different aspects of the toilet, and it has a built-in bidet, and you can actually turn that on and off with the remote, which is super cool. And it also has the feature of auto flushing when you walk away from the toilet, which is pretty cool. They also showed an RGB toilet, which I actually like. If you could actually control the lights on it, you could use that for notifications and stuff like that. Maybe a timer to let you know that you need to get off the pot. But I really like the idea here, although it's obviously a bit overkill. Then my favorite thing that they showed, and that was their smart shower system. They went overboard with the display, but they have these controllers mounted on the wall that you can set an experience, is what they said. You can set temperature, turn faucets on and off, you can have presets, all sorts of things. And they actually showed the whole setup in a cutaway cabinet, which is really interesting to see how the plumbing would go. And it looks like a pretty expensive system. I didn't actually get a price on it, but not sure I would actually put this in my house. But if I had a mansion, maybe. I did have a lot of fun turning the shower heads on and off and just seeing how quickly it reacted. And I would say that this is a nice to have, not a need to have. One thing my wife thought was really cool was this shower head, which has detachable inserts for exfoliating your skin and a rechargeable massager, which is pretty cool to have that mixed with the hot water. The star of the show, of course, was LG with their transparent TVs. And while these aren't really what you consider smart home stuff per se, they do run WebOS, which now they've added it as a Chromecast device. So it should show up, I think, showing up as a media player and giving you the ability to cast to it, which is pretty cool, I think. The TV has this roller shade that rolls up behind it, giving the black background, but normally whatever would be black in a typical OLED TV is actually transparent, and you could add the black by rolling that shade up. That beautiful image you're seeing is actually transmitted wirelessly to the TV from this tiny little black box, and although the TV has to be powered with a cable, that's the only cable connected to it. They showed it off in a bunch of these little display boxes to give you like an artsy feel for how these could be used. But I'm going to go ahead and say right now, this is not going to end up in my house. LG also showed another smart monitor that they have, which is a smart TV and a computer monitor in one. So again, should be able to use as a cast device. Another one they showed is this travel monitor, again, that runs WebOS, but is put into this military grade case, can be rotated horizontally and vertically, and can be packed right up and taken on a trip or tailgating or wherever you want to go. They showed their mini projector, I think to rival Samsung's, which I thought was cool. And then this little box, I guess it's like a jukebox type thing, but it has a really cool look to it. They also showed a washer that of course is smart, but it's a washer and dryer together. They had a little experience, we'll call it, which was really an advertisement for WebOS. But it was pretty cool to see a boss fight like directly in front of me on these crystal clear displays. Back to more smart home stuff, we visited the Withings booth where they revealed something super cool. It's called the BMO, and it's pretty much a health monitor that can monitor 4 different things about your health, and that'll be recorded in the Withings app. Now, why I was so excited about this is because there is a Withings Home Assistant integration, and that means you can get this sweet data in Home Assistant. Unfortunately, that integration is a cloud-based integration, so know that this data is going to the Withings cloud, which you may or may not like. They were demoing a particular use case for this, and that is a teledoc situation where you're on a telecall with your doctor and he says, I need to check your vitals. You whip out the BMO at home, you get the information, and it's automatically transmitted to him and he can diagnose you. Withings was also showing off their smart scales, which do work in Home Assistant, and you get that weight data. And they were also showing off some watches that track some of your health information. And unlike most smartwatches, these ones actually have some really nice style. This is something I'd wear. Next, I stopped over at what was probably one of my favorite booths to look at, and that is the Roborock booth. They were showing off their new S8 Max V Ultra, a beast of a machine. One of the things they've added is a camera in addition to the LiDAR, meaning you get really accurate object detection as well as room mapping. Another new feature is the flexi arm design, which is a way to flex out that dust brush so that you get a really nice corner cleaning. They've also added a dual roller design, so you have two rollers pulling the dust up, and combined with that powerful suction, you get a really nice vacuum. They also have the new Viberize 3.0 mopping system, which uses vibration to really get a solid clean. To handle mopping the edges of rooms, they've added a tiny little mop pad that makes contact with the wall and gives you that nice, perfect mop. If you're mopping, the brushes lift up, and if you are vacuuming, the mop lifts up, and if you're going home, they both lift up. They've also added a voice assistant to the new robots, which when you say "Hello, Rocky," you can then tell it what to do. That's super nice for people who don't already have a voice assistant. The other robot they've introduced is the Q-Revo Max V. Man, that's a mouthful. I don't want to say this one is a budget option, but it's just a little bit different design. This one has two mop pads like you would see with the Narwal and some of the others. It has only a single brush rather than two like the other one. No flexi arm, but it does have a flexi mop arm where the mop can be stuck out to get right along the edge of the wall. For both of these vacuums, they introduced the new refill and drainage system, a base station that gets plumbed right into your supply and drain, so you never have to change the mop water again. Very nice. They also showed off a couple new hand vacs, which I was pretty interested in as well, and they are smart because they connect to their app, but they showed cleaning up orange juice and oatmeal and how amazing this thing works. It's actually a vacuum and a mop, and those wheels at the back are actually driven, which means that this thing glides as you're pushing it back and forth. Its claim to fame is also that it can get really low to the ground so you can get underneath couches, and it can be cleaned and charged at the base station. Okay, the last thing I wanted to show you guys is for you LED matrix lovers, and this is a flexible LED matrix that this company was showing off as caution tape. I want to get my hands on this stuff and see if it works with, you guessed it, WLED. Anyway, that's pretty much it for this video. Unfortunately, I planned this trip last minute and it was my first year at CES, so there are a lot of things that I missed, but hopefully if I go again next year, I'll cover all of these things in a little bit better detail. Anyway, I really appreciate you guys watching, and until the next one, see ya.